Reebok supposedly dumped DiJonai Carrington. There's one problem. Reebok still lists her on its official basketball roster today. So this video is not about a confirmed cancellation. It is about how a real ejection, a real backlash, and a real sponsor pressure campaign turned into a termination headline before the receipt ever appeared.
DiJonai Carrington is looking around the room like, oh my God, I've never been in this much fire. I mean, it's getting so bad that now her endorsements are potentially about to pull out on representing DiJonai Carrington.
Carrington absolutely created a brutal news cycle for herself. The Flagrant 2 was real. The ejection was real. The white privilege post was real. And fans really did start tagging Reebok and demanding consequences. But those facts are not the same as a brand canceling a multi-year deal. Before we get anywhere near the sponsor claim, hear the basketball part from a real commentator. The foul itself did not need exaggeration.
Happened when this young lady got ejected from a WNBA game the other day for a flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham. Did y'all see that? She got ejected from the game for that flagrant foul right there. And I'll be damned if that wasn't a flagrant 2. She mugged her. Damn near came across like decapitating her, for crying out loud. That was definitely a hard foul. Make no mistake about it. Nobody can argue about it. You can say what you want. We know what we saw. No way around it. The DiJonai Carrington foul was clearly unnecessary. It was a flagrant foul penalty 2. It was absolutely positively correct call. It was called the flagrant 2. That's a flagrant 2 every single damn time in the NBA and the WNBA.
Cunningham is ahead on the break. Carrington chases from behind, and the contact lands high across the head and neck area. Officials review it and upgrade the play to flagrant 2. That ruling already carries its own consequence: automatic ejection. Cunningham believed the play looked intentional. Carrington later denied trying to hurt her. The replay can show the contact. It cannot read motive. That distinction matters once every political argument in the country gets attached to the same possession.
DiJonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouled Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DiJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was...
Then Carrington makes the story bigger herself. She posts white privilege and tags Indiana while the ejection is still fresh. The timing made the obvious interpretation spread instantly. People assumed she was saying race influenced the ruling. Carrington later said she never claimed the foul assessment itself was white privilege. That clarification matters. So does the fact that the original post gave the public almost no context. Both things can be true at the same time.
I would actually say that this is black privilege, to be totally honest with you, because her posting this white racist comment right after assaulting Sophie Cunningham on the court is actually black privilege, because she knows the WNBA won't do a single thing of significance about it. And imagine if the roles were reversed. If Sophie made a comment similar to this, then she'd likely never play again. And actually, we just saw this from Coach Sandy Brondello. She got disciplined for making, I believe, a pretty innocent, maybe, offhand comment about talking about Angel Reese and saying that she's a protected species. She was suspended and disciplined. And I think if that's the standard, then DiJonai should be too.
Once race entered the headline, commentators stopped arguing only about a basketball call. Some called Carrington's post racist. Some said the league had a double standard. Others connected the foul to Cunningham's politics or Caitlin Clark. Those reactions are useful because they show how angry the audience became. They are not proof of why Carrington committed the foul. That is the editing line we have to keep. Let the hot takes be hot takes, then separate them from what the footage actually establishes.
So some sort of bizarre PR strategy to attract eyeballs, or is the WNBA fundamentally broken?
No. That's you, because you're a good person trying to find some kind of rational reason for doing this other than what it is. It's pure and simple racism and hate. They're mad that the best player in the league is a heterosexual white woman. Let's just be honest. She's not one of the confidants in their creed. And so therefore it's been a concentrated effort to go after her. Even her head coach doesn't stand by. So, and I think it's hilarious, and at the same time, they don't know what a woman is. And I'm very proud of Freedom and the other gentlemen for finding out who they are, and I wish them the best. And hopefully the league will, since it's an all-tolerant league and their head coaches wear shirts about trans women count, well, here's two. And I hope they give them their opportunity, and the young lady in France as well. So I think it's a league that has got away with being racist and disgusting to people, and now they're Americans are smart to it. So hopefully they get some of their own, but I wouldn't let my...
Within hours, the foul was barely the headline anymore. Carrington's post became the headline. Cunningham's politics became the headline. Old Clark Carrington clips became the headline. Every media personality got a different version of the same argument. That is exactly why Emmanuel Acho's clip matters. He brings the conversation back to the specific ruling and says, in plain terms, that high contact and blood are enough to explain the flagrant 2 without inventing a race-based reason for it.
Paying attention to what DiJonai Carrington did to Sophie Cunningham, it was not a race-based decision. And to call that a white privilege-based foul is to completely undermine the term of white privilege and to also completely ignore the rules in basketball. You hit her in the head, you drew blood, you didn't connect with the ball at all whatsoever. So to me, it was just very ignorant and to some degree asinine by DiJonai Carrington to suggest that that call was based on white privilege. Have we seen examples of white players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. Have we seen examples of black players make that same foul and get away with it? Yes. There was no white privilege involved in that specific call. DiJonai, you hit her in the head and you...
Acho does more than say the call was correct. He criticizes the idea that this specific foul should be framed through white privilege, calling that interpretation ignorant and asinine. That soundbite travels because it gives the backlash a recognizable face. But it also sets up the next twist. Carrington's response is not, the foul was white privilege and I stand by it. She says, Acho made an assumption about what her post meant. The fight shifts from the foul itself to who had the right to interpret two loaded words with almost no context. Carrington says she never claimed the assessment of the foul was white privilege. She points to her education and says she would not use a phrase with that much historical weight without evidence. That does not magically explain the original post. The fever was still tagged. The timing was still immediate. The public inference was still predictable. The fair version is messier. Critics may have attached the post to the wrong specific claim, but Carrington also gave them almost nothing else to work with. That is a communication problem, not proof of a secret meaning.
Every single game for the rest of the season counts. And the fact that she let her hate and her ego cost the game for her entire team is so toxic. It goes to show that she has very little respect for her teammates because they all work their absolute asses off. They've all got something to prove. They know that, they started the season with all this hype. They didn't kick it off very strong. And so they have all been working their asses off, coming together, playing patiently. When I say patiently, they've been playing patiently, learning how to actually run the court together. A lot of new pieces. There's been some injuries. There's been people returning from injury. There's been a lot of changes. The fact that they were just on the rise, and as a Fever fan, I can say they were actually schooling us in the first quarter. They came back when we were up 8 points. DiJonai herself was balling out, and she just cost the game for her team.
Before Chicago's next game, Carrington says the foul was unfortunate and never intentional. She also calls for consistency from the league, across fouls, reactions, and retaliation. That is a much calmer explanation than the first social post. It still leaves people arguing about what white privilege referred to. What it does not do is say anything about Reebok. The sponsor story is still coming entirely from outside reaction and unnamed reports, not from Carrington, her agent, or the company.
She posted white privilege after getting tossed from the game, but says it wasn't about the foul. Can you explain this?
No, I can't. When she tweeted white privilege, she did it so quickly, it was almost as though she had the phone in her pocket after this foul and she got ejected. So, to say she wasn't referring to this play or getting kicked out and saying that the only reason she got kicked out and it got upgraded is because Sophie Cunningham is white is crazy. It was a crazy thing to tweet, maybe crazier than to try to act like it had nothing to do with the play. So I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't think anybody can have any idea what she's talking about.
Sophie Cunningham takes the opposite communications approach. She says the league is handling the situation, says the incident has nothing to do with race, and points out that she has been ejected for dangerous contact before and accepted it. Whether you agree with every word Cunningham has said this season or not, that answer is easy for a brand or a team to understand. Short, direct, no new mystery. That contrast is why the sponsor angle becomes so clickable. One player looks like she is closing the story, while Carrington keeps getting pulled back into it. Carrington really does have something valuable to protect. Reebok signed her to a multi-year endorsement deal in April 2025 and put her on the brand's basketball roster around the Engine A relaunch. Fans in the source really are tagging Reebok and demanding that the company drop her. That pressure campaign is real, but the next leap is where the viral story gets ahead of itself. The supplied video never shows a Reebok statement canceling Carrington. It never names a company executive. It never shows a contract notice. It says multiple reports are circulating, but does not identify a credible report that confirms termination. And as of this production package, Reebok's own official basketball page still lists DiJonai Carrington on its current Reebok roster. That does not guarantee the relationship can never change. It means the headline, "Reebok canceled her deal," is not established by the evidence we have right now. That is actually a better story. Real fan pressure, real reputational risk, but a cancellation rumor that viewers should not confuse with an announcement.
But when black people do some foolishness, they gotta be held accountable just like any other damn race. And I'm telling you right now, she need to be held accountable. So Reebok, stick it to her. Stick it to her. Because what she did was ruined a brand deal like no other. She ain't even all that on the basketball court anyways. Common sense would have told you not to clothesline Sophie Cunningham from hell. Because you want to know why? The backlash you're going to get from that decision will affect your pockets. And I'm so happy that these brands are now seeing what we've been seeing. A whole lot of BS going on from these players. And I'm telling you right now, more players need to lose brand deals when they do stupidity, especially to Caitlin.
This is the business part worth watching. Brands care about comment sections, headlines, athlete behavior, and whether a partnership becomes more expensive to defend than it is worth to promote. A sponsor does not have to terminate a deal for controversy to matter. Campaigns can be paused. Creative can be delayed. A player can disappear from a post. A company can simply wait for the story to cool down. Those are realistic possibilities. But unless Reebok says it ended Carrington's contract, they remain possibilities, not a confirmed cancellation.
DiJonai Carrington, after getting thrown out of the game for her ridiculous foul on Sophie Cunningham, went to social media and claimed white privilege. To do that, Emmanuel Acho basically pushed back and said you can't call everything white privilege. It undercuts the idea so many have talked about. And then DiJonai went to X and responded to Emmanuel Acho. He said, "I never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. Know you studied psych. Furthermore, I'm the last thing from ignorant or asinine when it comes to speaking on white privilege. Do your research on that one. Actually went to school, one of the top universities, might I add, to educate myself on this exact subject. I would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the historical and social weight it holds without having the proper evidence to substantiate it." So, in your face, Emmanuel. What I want to know is, then why were you posting white privilege in the locker room immediately after being ejected? What were you randomly sitting in the locker room having just been ejected thinking about when you posted white privilege and, by the way, tagged the Indiana Fever?
Now listen to the wording change. The source goes from "fans are calling for Reebok to drop her" to "Reebok is reportedly moving to terminate the deal," and then starts explaining what that supposed termination means for Carrington's future. But no named report appears. No Reebok announcement appears. No credible confirmation is shown. The most important proof is sitting in the opposite direction. Reebok's current basketball site still lists Carrington in its athlete roster today. So the honest line is not, she lost everything. It is her endorsement is under public pressure, and viral accounts are claiming a cancellation that Reebok has not publicly confirmed. That is still dramatic. It is also the difference between a controversy and a fabricated business event.
Hey, the black girl, jail. She needs to go to jail immediately.
You would have to believe it's going to be up for
no pass, go straight to jail. This is assault, right? This is assault. Now let me tell you something. This is assault. She needs to go to jail. Premeditated. Go to jail. Go to jail. She needs to be arrested. Go to jail. I want her in jail. I want her in jail. She should never touch her. Nah, can't do it. All right, we already know the WNBA is in a position right now. You need to make an example of that Don Imus. That Don Imus needs to be made an example of. That Don Imus needs to be made an example of. She needs to go to jail for assaulting Miss Cunningham. She needs to go to jail.
Even without a canceled shoe deal, Carrington has a real problem to manage. Every future hard foul gets replayed beside this one. Every press conference gets another question about the post. Opposing crowds now have an obvious storyline to boo. Brands and front offices notice sustained controversy even when they do not make public decisions in the middle of it. But the source goes too far when it turns those possible consequences into facts about what other teams and sponsors are already doing behind closed doors. We do not have a league memo saying teams view her as toxic. We do not have a second brand announcing it is walking away. We have a player in a serious reputational storm, a loud online campaign, and a sponsor relationship that Reebok still publicly displays. That is enough tension without inventing the first domino.
Let's talk about black privilege for a second. Doing something completely wrong and unethical, and instead of taking responsibility, pulls out the race card and acts like a victim. Yeah, that's what we just witnessed here. The sheer lack of accountability on DiJonai's end, that was so intentional. Look at DiJonai staring at Sophie's head the whole time, and look at her reaction after. That's anger. A normal reaction would be to ask if Sophie was okay or immediately apologize. But instead, she shoves her. The audacity to go and cry wolf and pull out the fake victim card and scream white privilege, all the while making Sophie Cunningham bleed as a result to her actions. People are tired of everything being blamed on race. I wouldn't be surprised if DiJonai did this in response to Sophie Cunningham coming out vocally in response to protecting women in women's sports. This was not white privilege. Under DiJonai's definition of white privilege, here's some more white privilege. Getting ejected from the game was called consequences to actions, and DiJonai should be thankful that an ejection is all that happened, because she ought to be suspended from the entire league.
The final verdict is uncomfortable for both extremes. Carrington did not simply get targeted by the media for nothing. The Flagrant 2 was real. The ejection was real. The white privilege post was real. Her combative exchange with critics was real. And fans really are pressuring Reebok. But the biggest business claim in the viral package still does not have the thing it needs most: confirmation from the business. Reebok signed Carrington to a multi-year deal, and Reebok's own basketball page still lists her on the roster as of today. So no, this is not a confirmed story about an athlete losing everything. It is a story about how quickly a bad on-court moment can become a brand risk story when every post after the whistle creates another headline. The sponsor pressure is real. The cancellation headline is not proven. And that distinction is exactly what the viral video hoped nobody would stop long enough to check.